Aaron Rodgers is about to embark on a warpath to prove everyone wrong. You see, there are doubts as to whether Rodgers can be the same Hall of Fame level QB as he was before. Even his own team had doubts about him as well, and made a move that ignited the fire inside of Rodgers. It'll take the doubts, the betrayal, his own team to make this revenge tour come to fruition. Let's break it down. You guys remember this draft pick almost 4 years ago now? You see, this pick spurred something in Aaron Rodgers. This is the pick that sent Rodgers down a path of war once before in the past. And what resulted this war path that Rodgers had was 2 MVP seasons, lighting up the league and playing the best ball he has ever played, throwing for more touchdowns in both of those MVP years than he had had for almost half a decade, posting his best PFF grades and NFL passes for quite some time. Where am I going with this, since this is in the past, right? But now it's the future. Just in this past draft, the New York Jets selected Jordan Travis, Florida QB, and it was not in the first round like Jordan Love was, but in the 5th round. This may seem harmless, but knowing the kind of person Rodgers is, think about what he is feeling. Even if the Jets told him that's what they're doing to begin with, it's the thought in his mind that another team doesn't think I can stay healthy. Another team that wants a backup plan in case I don't perform well. Well, newsflash, I'm going to prove you wrong. And it's that mentality that makes you want to do so good that you prove everyone wrong and make them eat their word. But it's not just the Jets that he would want to prove wrong. It's going to be the Packers as well. The same Packers that trade him to the Jets, even though it's kind of what Rodgers wanted as well, there's going to be that part of him that wishes he stayed with Green Bay, especially with the success that the Packers have had with Jordan Love, his replacement. Imagine what they would have been with Rodgers last year. So now he has 2 teams to prove wrong, and it extends out even further. You remember Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles last season. He didn't even last 10 snaps to the game before he got hurt, and before you know it, his season was over. A season where he was going to prove the Packers wrong. He's going to take the Jets, who have a Super Bowl contending roster, and arguably the coaching staff as well, to take them all the way to the promised land. And before it can even get started, it ended. And then all the talking heads started saying this.
Is over. There are questions about whether his Hall of Fame career is as well.
What does this mean, do you think, quickly for his career, for Rodgers' career?
It could be over. It just depends on how hard he wants to work during this rehab process.
That is a very, very tough injury to overcome. And I don't know if he's wanting to put that kind of time in.
Like, I don't think it's going to end well for Aaron Rodgers. I think it's false hope.
The question is, how motivated will he be to do it?
But if there's one thing I know about this guy, he gets motivated by proving to people that he can do things that they don't think he can do.
So while the talking heads are yapping, Rodgers is watching from the sidelines on crutches, watching a terrible QB on the field, making the Jets look like clowns, and Rodgers should be the one in his place. Instead, he's now being written off as a QB who tore his Achilles and won't be the same guy, and that his better years are behind him. Oh, and he's too old. With the injury, plus the fact that he's 40 years old now, he's at the point where QBs are kind of done. All of these things are being said about Rodgers, and unless you were born yesterday, by now you know the kind of person Aaron Rodgers is. He is quite literally built different. Whether it's the way he spends his off seasons, going on a butter diet, or how he thrives on the drama surrounding him, we know that Rodgers is arguably the most talented QB to ever enter the NFL though. We understand too that Rodgers is a unique personality, whether it's his ego, or just bold confidence, and the belief in himself is unwavering. From experiencing life as a backup behind Favre, to winning the Super Bowl shortly after being the starter for the Packers, to going to so many NFC championships and losing and coming up short of the Super Bowl time after time. All of this is like pressure building up in a boiler. It's like rocket fuel for him. The motivation level is so high now that not even David Goggins could extend it further. This sounds ridiculous, but if you really think about what has happened up until this point, it would make any of us go down a path of war. To go on a revenge tour one final time, to give it all that we got, and to say our final piece. Like Rodgers did with Love, like Rodgers did with Favre, he knows how to use all this to his advantage, how to light the fire within himself and to go on a legendary run like he has done in the past. Rodgers is about to get serious. So you know why Rodgers is on a revenge tour and why it's happening now. Now, how will it actually come to fruition? There are multiple key aspects to the Rodgers Revenge Tour, but first we start with the bread and butter of this operation. We know a common theme time after time again when we think of teams that have reached the Super Bowl or are deep in the playoffs. What we see is a top level offense or elite defense. And for the past 2 years, the Jets have had that level of a defense under Robert Saleh, and with being led by one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL, Zach Wilson. We know as well the Jets offense has looked awful and non-functional for the past years under Zach Wilson. So game after game, the defense has been consistently strained and put under so much pressure to keep that team afloat. And when your defense is having to go out on the field time after time, not being allowed to rest or recuperate, they are going to lose their stamina and let up as the game gets further and further in. And despite this, that Jets defense has been one of the top 3 defenses for the past 2 years. Imagine what's going to happen when Rodgers is out there healthy and consistently putting up points, giving the other side of the ball a chance to catch their breath, to not be gassed out by the second half. They're going to be able to play more aggressively and much more freely, which in return is going to have that Jets defense looking like one of the best to ever come to fruition in NFL history. The stars on that team are kind of unbelievable. They have Sauce Gardner, who is an elite cornerback. They have Quinnen Williams, one of the best defensive tackles in the league right now, but so many other great players in CJ Mosley, DJ Reed, Michael Carter Jr., Jermaine Johnson. Some of the names you might not be familiar with, but when the Jets are airing in prime time and the Jets are lighting up the league, you will remember them. So the defense is going to be playing lights out, even better than what they were the past couple of years because of the relief that's going to come from the offense. Well, what is different about this offense that will bring relief and fulfill the Rodgers Revenge Tour? Because Rodgers can't do it all by himself. Not what he thinks. Number 1, Zach Wilson's gone. No more locker room shenanigans or abysmal QB play. But the next is one of the biggest issues with the Jets besides having Zach Wilson on the team. One that has been weighing them down and sinking the ship there, when it should be the strong foundation of the offense. It is something that is super important for creating a baseline stability, something that no matter what you call for plays, with running the ball, passing the ball, or play action, it plays a pivotal role in the success of any of those plays. The offensive line is completely different than previous years. According to Pro Football Focus, the Jets have had one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL for the past 2 years. This definitely does not sound like relief. Instead, it sounds like what's going to derail the Rodgers Revenge Tour. Again, however, the Jets this past offseason have aggressively attacked that side of the ball, signing Tyron Smith to a 1-year deal. Smith has dealt with injuries for the past few years now. However, he is an all-pro caliber talent tackle when he has been on the field. This move would seem like a band-aid to fix up the offensive line, but the Jets had other plans in the draft as well, selecting Olu Fashanu with the 11th pick of the draft. Fashanu is one of the best pass blocking tackle prospects in the draft, and in my opinion, he will easily be one of the best tackles in the NFL in no time. In addition, the Jets will also have Elijah Vera Tucker coming back from injury. He still has the potential to break out, and even if he doesn't, his baseline has been average tackle play. The Jets are going to move him inside the guard to make room for Morgan Moses, whom they acquired in a trade earlier this offseason. Moses has been a really good right tackle in the league for quite some time. So with a revamp at the offensive line, they're looking really good, upgrading at every spot besides center. This will give Rodgers the protection he needs to slice and dice those defenses. But where do we go with the ball? It's just Garrett Wilson and friends, right? Well, Wilson is that elite alpha wide receiver 1 who will be the main feature of the offense. He absolutely will be Rodgers' go-to in a similar way to Devonta Adams was for Rodgers for years. The Jets also added some high ceiling playmakers with Mike Williams, who will be the big frame, deep downfield, and goal ball threat. They also drafted Malachi Corley in the 3rd round this past draft. He is a pretty raw wide receiver, and he will probably operate out of the slot and be used in ways to bring out that insane yak ability in him. And after that, it is pretty much randoms plus Rodgers' secret weapon, Allen Lazard, which leaves one man left, Rodgers himself. Yes, he is old man Rodgers. Yes, he's coming off an Achilles injury. But keep in mind, for Rodgers, he sat for a few years before he even started playing in the NFL. This means the number of hits he has taken and the amount of wear and tear on his body is less than what it is supposed to be for his age. So in theory, the mileage he has left playing at the level he is absolutely capable of doing is going to be much more, which we know Rodgers is elite Hall of Fame QB. We know he hasn't fallen off a cliff yet. His arm looks amazing still, and his playmaking ability is going to be causing defense's nightmare. All the pieces have come together for the Rodgers Revenge Tour to come to fruition. fruition. Like the Packers' plan to replace Rodgers, this isn't the first time the Packers have done this. The Packers keep finding elite QBs. Check out the video here.